Okay, so welcome everybody. Today is our open session on sports analytics, and we're going to be focusing on two of our favorite sports, or actually the favorites of our panelists today, swimming and soccer. So please meet Brett Meyer. Say hi, Brett. Go ahead and press your microphone.
So hi,
right.
Very excited to be part of the thread here. You can see a little bio on myself.
Yay, thanks, Brett. Brett is joining us from Villanova. He is a professor of practice and faculty academic director of sports initiatives at the Villanova School of Business. We're really happy to have him here. He has also consulted for the Philadelphia Union, Toronto FC, and the Columbus Crew, all of some of the top teams in the MLS, Major League Soccer. So if you're a soccer fan and that's one of your teams, keep your eye out for a little cameo appearance later in today's session. And Brett has been working on research in decision-making and analytics in sports. And he's really been focused on building an analytical professional soccer club. And also a soccer player at University of Richmond and the Richmond Kickers. And so what's going to be fun today as well is there he is in a back seat with Josie Altidore and Heath Pierce, two professional players and U.S. national team players you might recognize. So
at least you got a seat in the back seat, not the front seat.
You got a seat in the back. So that was awesome. We'll get to see them again in a little bit. And Lauren Mowell is an awesome create and learn teacher. She teaches data science, coding, and AI with us, but she is also a lecturer in statistics and math education at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay. And she is earning her PhD right now. She already has her master's degree in data analytics from Villanova. And her sports area of expertise, she is a state swimming champion. So now she's coaching and providing consulting via data analytics. All right. So I'm Joanne, and there I am with my soccer ball because I'm a complete soccer fan, complete fanatic, but I'm also the lead program manager for teaching and learning innovation here at Create and Learn, and I teach data science as well, leveraging my first career as a high school math teacher, and Lauren was a high school math teacher as well. And so I'm here today to moderate and facilitate this really cool, fun experience. So let's get started. We have some questions for you. So what I want you to do is take a look. We're going to share a poll. And I want you to think about whether or not you agree or disagree. And here is the poll. I'm going to allow you to vote. And we're going to keep our eye on the responses as they come in. Do you agree or disagree? A data scientist needs strong communication skills to thrive in their position. And right now the poll's coming in, Lauren and Brett, just so you know. It looks like so far 28, 29, so we're at 90% agree. So Lauren, do you have any commentary on that in terms of data scientists who need strong communication skills?
Yes, I totally agree with the people that are responding, because you can't just be good at math to be a data scientist. You really have to be able to explain it to people. So that's very true.
Right. And then Brett, you know, you're often communicating with soccer players. Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
Oh yeah, you know, whether it's communicating with players, coaches, other people that are staff members with a sports organization, you have to get your message across. You have to convey the information behind the analysis, the visuals that you produce. So that communication piece is very important.
Awesome. So we came at 90% agree on that one. Now we're going to go to a second poll. Let's go ahead and try this one out. A data scientist's role is to code and generate spreadsheets. Agree or disagree? Lauren, do you want to give them a little bit of insight as they're trying to decide, because it's going back and forth right now. We're getting 50% here. Yeah, controversy.
Yes, I think you can agree or disagree with this because it's part of your job as a data scientist, but it might not be your whole job. So you're kind of both right. Both groups are sort of right, but that's not their whole role, right?
Absolutely. And Brett, how often are you making spreadsheets these days? I bet your technology and technical skills are probably a little beyond spreadsheets. Let us know. Let the kids know how much spreadsheets are part of your work.
I think I think the spreadsheets, are part of the spreadsheet modeling is part of the toolkit in addition to the coding. I think with this question, I can understand why maybe it could be interpreted either way. We don't want to limit the data scientist role into just those primary actions. It is much more than that, but those are still very important parts of the the overall roles, responsibilities of a data scientist.
Right. And we are actually going to get some insight from both of you later on of how much technology is involved beyond spreadsheets. Let's do one more, agree or disagree. Using data in sports dehumanizes players. Ooh, this is going to be something really interesting. So right now we're getting an overwhelming disagree. So we must have some data scientists in our audience, right? Brett, are you in agreement with the folks who are saying, no, I disagree, using data in sports dehumanizes players?
Totally. It's actually reassuring to see it, so many that disagree with that statement. And, we can't forget the human aspect of what's going on in sports. And I think we want to use the data to support that and to treat athletes better, to make teams better ultimately. And the human element's very important to that.
And later on, you are going to get a little clip of Brett chatting with Josie about the human side of how he is actually considering data analytics in his own professional career. Great. So we're going to move on now that we have kind of some context and theme overall, what we're trying to demystify and really make clear to our audience about data science in sports. So when we teach data science at Create and Learn, we really do follow this kind of learning and experiential continuum, acting much like data scientists. Every class we collect data. We help the students collect data too, and then we analyze the data. We come up with some insights together, and kids have such incredible insights about data. It's so much fun to really learn from them what they're seeing compared to what we think we're supposed to see about the data. And then we work together to make some decisions, how decisions using these insights and how we might be able to impact something, whether it be sports-related activities, a business-related activity, or even our national forests. We've done some activities around that, collecting data and talking about decision-making. So we're going to do a little bit about that today, but we're also going to bring to the forefront this idea that, as you mentioned earlier, data scientists do not work in a silo, right? They work in collaboration with, especially in the area of sports, with domain experts like fitness trainers, coaches, all the folks who actually support players and teams to become excellent. And we also work with mathematicians and or coders and programmers to bring this data to life. All right, so I'm going to actually be handing it over now to Lauren, our swim state champion, and she's going to tell a little bit about wearable technology for swimmers and how that can be used to collect data. And she's going to walk you through some activities, but I'm going to go ahead and share this video first to kind of show you how the wearable technology works, and then Lauren will follow up to describe how they use it to make decisions. All right, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and maximize this screen. If you cannot hear the video, please put it in the chat.
I've been swimming pretty much my entire life.
It's very...
Sorry, folks. I'm just going to maximize the screen for you so you can see better.
I've been swimming pretty much my entire life.
It's very natural for me to just get in the water and start swimming. I love the way the water feels. It's just great.
I don't really think there's much luck in this sport. I think it's all hard work and all what you do in the pool.
Speed is everything.
The whole sport revolves around it.
If you don't have speed, you're not going to go anywhere.
There's definitely going to be a lot of plateaus in the sport.
Hitting the same time over and over again. I didn't know what to do.
And sometimes when you plateau, you're like, can I actually get faster?
I have dozens of athletes in the pool at the same time, and giving them individual feedback is definitely a struggle. We need to get to a point where we're actually swimming smarter and being a little bit more innovative in how we actually train.
Sports science and technology has been around in swimming for years. Elite level teams have an advantage over most other teams because they have access to technology and armies of sports scientists that most teams just don't have. At Tradenware, we're changing that, and we're bringing this technology to the everyday team.
All right. Oops, sorry, let me go back. Lauren, go ahead and jump in. You want to give some context around that, and then we'll go to the next slide.
Okay, so I know some of my swimmers are logged in right now watching, and they actually wear this device on their head. So it looks like this, and they actually put it right on the back of their head, and they put their cap over it, and it tracks their swimming. It tracks how many times they breathe, how far they kick underwater. So it's sort of a combination of AI combined with data science. And what it lets me do is it lets me watch them better as I coach a group of maybe 30 to 50 kids at one time, because I can see all this information on my iPad and it streams live as they swim. So it's a really great way for me to be a better coach and for them to make better decisions as athletes. And then once we collect all this data, we can also use something called video streaming data, and it generates a graph called a time series. And we actually see some of these in our data science classes at Create and Learn. So if you ever took some of our classes, we show you some similar graphs to these. And this one is just a little different because it's applied to the sport of swimming. But what this does is it's monitoring an athlete's acceleration over time. And what we want to do is maximize that acceleration. So if you look at the graphs, there's some high points and some low points. So we really want the athlete to be at those high points as much as possible and accelerate through the water as much as they can. So that's what the time series graph shows us. And we can actually extract this graph by giving the computer a video, and it takes all this information out of the video. So now we actually have an explanation of how this AI kind of works. So we're going to show you a video to explain it a little more deeply.
Yeah, and this one actually features the coach using an iPad to actually videotape, right, and record or video record the swimmer's motion. So let's see how this works.
Tradenware account to show you guys what a motion analysis video actually looks like. So you can see the video up here. This is from one of my friends named Emily. She's swimming freestyle, and we were calculating her optimum kick counts. At the bottom, you can see her acceleration profile, which is actually collected from the unit that's on the back of her head, and the ability for us to watch it in real time. You can also slow that down, so you can change her speed to 50%, 20% of whatever she normally swims at. What's really cool about this motion analysis software is you can see as she's swimming, that blue circle is moving through the acceleration profile, which is her moving in real time. So obviously if
there we go.
She's accelerating, there's going to be a peak on the graph, and if she's decelerating, there's going to be a trough. So a cool part about this is you can go exactly to certain points. You can open up this graph and you can basically space out those points, but you can click on exactly where she was and figure out why she was decelerating or accelerating based off of her acceleration profile. So in order to really look at the change in speed, what you would do is you would go find where right before her last dolphin kick happened. So you can see these peaks right here. Those are her dolphin kicks. So her very last one happened right before that last peak, which is with the body at a flat, straight angle. And we would put one of her brackets at that point. So her left bracket would be at the start of that last dolphin kick. We're going to the very end of the first stroke cycle, so we need to make sure that 2 full strokes, or basically two arm strokes have been completed, and we're looking at that point when the hand enters to put that second bracket. So once we find that point, you'd add the second bracket in, and that would give us basically an isolation of that area.
I'm going to pause it there and let Lauren go ahead and do a little bit of commentary. I'm also receiving some messaging that the video is lagging a little bit, so I'll work on maybe the quality of it while Lauren goes ahead and jumps in and describes a little bit more about what's happening here. And those dolphin kicks.
Yeah, so this is an illustration of dolphin kicks. And I know my team and the kids that are watching that swim for me know how much I push kicking in the sport of swimming, because it's the way we can accelerate forward the best and the easiest. So every time that you dolphin kick, your acceleration changes a little bit. And this video is monitoring those dolphin kicks and how much it impacts the acceleration upwards and maybe even downwards, depending on how good you are at kicking. So I know my team has used this before, but if you're interested and you're a swimmer, this data is really fun to watch, and we've seen a lot of improvements using it. And then another cool thing that we can do from the video is extract data into like a spreadsheet form. And if you've ever taken the data science classes at Create and Learn, we use spreadsheets and Excel, and then we can make visualizations from them. We can create graphs, we can create better insights into what's happening. So this picture is something that I made from one of my athletes probably 5 years ago. And we were doing a pace set. And what I do is this helps the swimmer see if they were under pace or above pace. So she was trying to hold a 35 for her 50s. And she was under for 4 of them, right? But then her last one was a 37. So this allows me to jump in and I could click on the 37 in my system and dive deeply into how many times did she breathe? What did she do differently to go so much slower on the 37 versus the 33s? So as a coach, this is so amazing and powerful for me. And I guess from all these graphs and from all this data, it just allows us to make such large improvements in a really short amount of time. I've seen kids break records just by using this for even a month. A lot of swimmers have overcome plateau. And what I mean by that is they kind of get slower for a while, or they just don't see any improvement. And using this data and really kind of diving into what they're doing wrong allows them to get better really fast. We also use this to recruit for college, to get kids college scholarships, college offers, spots on college teams. And this is also really important for injury prevention, because we can see if technique is falling apart, if someone has a shoulder issue, we can look into why, things like that. So this really is very powerful for us.
And these are things that you cover when you're consulting as well, right, Brett? These are topics that you address with the teams. Which one of these in soccer which ones of these in soccer do you think are probably, you know, really like at the top of the coach's list, and then versus the top of the players list in soccer?
Well, in terms of the wearable technology, because it's something similar that soccer players will primarily wear during their training sessions. I think the fundamental purpose of that is for injury prevention.
Right.
You know, getting them fit and ready to play for the next match. It's very easy for a coach to buy into the use of data for that purpose. There are other technologies that generate data, and some stuff that I'll get into, where you know, we're looking to evaluate how a player is performing. You know, it can be used also for the development of that player. They can look to work on aspects of their game, because now we have measurables on parts of their game. You know, we get our team playing better. We can scout the opponents. So, I mean, data is used for a variety of purposes. Recruitment as well, scouting, that becomes important.
Yeah, and even in our data science class, when we teach the intro, we focus on, you know, the best player in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo, and how data science has definitely tracked and really informed other teams and other players on technique and how to hit that, you know, that free kick. So it's dropping and spinning and making it really difficult for the goalie to catch. So yeah, those are really, really, really great tools to have. And so now all of you in the audience, you're going to get to be a sports scientist now. And Lauren's going to walk you through a little bit of an activity. You want to give them some context of what they're going to do here?
Sure. So we're going to let you try to be a sports scientist. So we're sending you a link. It'll appear in the chat very soon. And we want you to go to this link, and we want you to select a race from the link. So there's lots of choices. You can pick men's, women's, all these different events you can click on. We want you to pick one race. And once you get there, you are going to dive into the data and kind of look into, why did certain people win? why did certain people lose based off of the data that's shown in the race that you picked.
Okay, so this is where they're working at, and you're going to help them a little bit to navigate. But when they do land at this link, do you want to give them a couple of sets of instructions to get started, or should I just scroll down to find where you want them to go?
Can you click on the 200 butterfly for me? The 20.
Sure. Right here. Is this the right one?
Yep.
Okay. So everybody, we're clicking on the 200 butterfly women's. All right, and you did receive the link in the chat.
So now if you look at this, here's another time series graph, right? And each person has a different color. So each woman that was in this race has a specific color for her data. And as you click through, there's also an arrow on the side of their data where you can kind of see more. So there's like a red arrow on each girl where you can scroll over and look. And you can see what their split time was, how many strokes they took, how long they were underwater. And what I want you to do is pick a race and then decide, why did that person win or why did that person lose that you're looking at? And just for instance, if you look at Ella, so Ella won. And if you kind of dive into her data very deeply, you can see her turns were the fastest. So her turn time is way faster than everybody else's. And her time underwater is also the greatest. And according to physics, if you have better turns and you stay under longer, you're much, much faster that way if your lungs can handle that. So it makes sense why Ella won, according to the data that we see here from her race.
Yeah, so maybe we'll give the kids a chance that are out there just to explore and maybe look for some phrases like underwater, maybe compare Ella. Lauren, do you have any suggestions of who they should compare Ella's underwater time to? Maybe there's something interesting in a particular swimmer that you know about maybe they should look at, or maybe a turn time.
I think Ella's time underwater was similar to the 5th place girl. So I thought the 4th or 5th place girl was similar in underwater, but she still took 5th instead of 1st. So it's kind of interesting to see how the data interacts. Like just because you're strong underwater doesn't mean you'll win. So go ahead and play around with it. Pick any race you're interested in and kind of look at the data and see if you can figure out why they won or lost.
Great. And then while we're here, just checking in, if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and send them in the chat. Lauren's keeping her eye on those. And in the meantime, we are going to transition over to soccer. All right, great. Okay, I do see Anthony has his hand raised. Hey, you know what? Let's take one question. Anthony, do you have a question about this activity or the swim? If you do, Anthony, I'm going to have you go ahead and press your microphone and go ahead and ask. Maybe we're not going to hear from Anthony. Well, Anthony, go ahead and put your question in the chat and we'll check on that, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and transition over to soccer. And as you can just imagine, this is, super exciting. I am a swimmer as well. I love to swim, but of course, soccer for me is really, really amazing and awesome. So we're going to give you a little context first. Hey, I would tell you who my favorite team is, but I bet that would cause all kind of chatter in the chat box. So I am going to share with you that it is not Liverpool, but Liverpool has some incredibly significant data in terms of its record and its winning rate. So, here, this little title, you might not be able to see it. It says losing just 4.9% of matches. They had an incredible season not too long ago. So we're going to give you a little bit of context for that first. And then Brent's going to chime in and describe to you a little bit about how data analytics led to this result. So here we go.
There's obviously a multitude of reasons as to why Liverpool is having so much success these days. I mean, they haven't lost a Premier League match in over a year. Success is down to a mixing pot of coaching, proper training, player personnel, scouting, and intelligent recruitment, not to mention luck and the effort to manifest it for yourself. But the one thing that connects all of these aspects in Liverpool's case is their extensive focus on the use of analytics and data to improve every aspect of the club's performance. From optimizing their possession retention from throw-ins, to seeing how a new signing can increase their goal probability, to employing analytics for corporate measures. This is a brief intro to how they are leading the charge in the data sphere.
You know, Brett is going to walk us through like what led to that, and then also just, you know, he's going to take you through his process, the same as what we talked about earlier. We collect the data, then there's a lot of data, and we got to organize it and analyze it and come up with some insights so we can make some decisions. And so if you want to go ahead and give a little bit of context on the Liverpool, and then talk about how these technology tools come into play for something like that.
Yeah, I think Liverpool is a really good example. I mean, do we have any Liverpool fans in the thread?
I'll look
I know
in the
this
chat.
gets controversial, but I know they've become a very popular team. They play an attractive style. They've been very successful. But I think the key to their success is that I think they have an incredible coach, one who is open-minded. He's progressive with his ideas. He's also seems to be, you know, very good in sort of building a culture. And I think there's, you know, my perception is that there's good harmony with the front office there. And they've made hires of data scientists to be very much integrated in what they do. So I think a few years ago, you know, they sort of established their philosophy, and then they used that philosophy to, you know, to scout players, to bring them in. They built a great core. You saw some of those players.
Yeah,
videos.
I remember when they brought in Mo Salah. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah.
And you know, and then the Brazilian striker as well. You know, they've got that front that front three is incredible, and they play a style that I think is data driven in what they do. It's high pressing, it's quick, very quick flowing soccer. They generate a lot of chances. They're relentless in games, and what they did was rather historic over the last you know couple seasons. A great example there. And you're seeing here, and sorry to interrupt, Joanne, I was just going to say, you're seeing here, I think what I'm giving you here is what I use right now in my consulting with the Columbus Crew, not really on the same level as Liverpool, but, you know, I think from an analytics standpoint and the types of technologies that we look to use and how we start to look to integrate it into, you know, decision-making in the club. You know, we have these, as you can see in the table, there's different types of data. I indicated what companies they come from. And this is probably very comparable to what a Liverpool is doing as well.
Yeah, and I bet a lot of the kids and folks in our audience don't realize also that, you know, data decision-making for soccer teams also informs the style of play. Like you mentioned, you know, Liverpool designed, you know, and it's kind of like the chicken or the egg, you know, like, do you design your play and then go and use data to shape your team? Or, you know, do you have a team and then you use data to shape your style of play? Do you have any commentary on that?
I think that is a great question, because I think you can really make an argument either way. I've seen models where it's kind of done either way, but I think at some point, I think it's very important, you know, data aside, that you have sort of these fundamental principles that are important in your organization. It's this collaborative between the coach, the front office, and that drives a lot of what you do. And so then I think to then have the data sort of support that, and then but still be somewhat flexible, where, you know, if you're going against a team, then even though you have sort of your principles and the way that you like to play, that might not be the best match when you play a particular opponent.
A particular team,
So to have some kind of flexibility, I mean, you know, and just to talk about another club in Barcelona, that, you know,
you just had a humiliating 8-2 loss.
8-2 loss. I mean, it's sort of a
major championship.
Yeah, an end of an era for them. But when they were kind of at their peak, I mean, they, I mean, and they would outpass teams like a very possession oriented style of play. And if you wanted any chance of beating them, you couldn't do that by trying to outdo Barcelona and what Barcelona does. You had to go the extreme other way and just like bunker down and try to be opportunistic and get them on counter situations in order to win. And that's sort of where, when you have those matchups, you may and that's that can be a data driven conclusion, because you look you analyze the times when Barcelona has lost. It's been a lot of times these very lopsided possession games where it's almost as if the other team is just waiting. They're gonna. It reminds me a little bit like Rocky and Rocky 4. I don't know. The audience might be a little young for it, but kept taking the punches and then go. Yep.
So one of the measurements, which I know you're going to show later in one of the case studies you've done, is absolutely like possession. For the percentage of time a team possesses the ball is a way to strategize about how to develop a new thesis for going into a match. But I also wanted to just check in with Lauren about this. Lauren, we didn't discuss it earlier, but I imagine you can use data and technology and wearables in a swim team. Is that something that has happened before, where you kind of use data to kind of combine data around different team members and strategize who to put where and which in which length? I don't have the swimming language, but it would be great to hear a little bit about that.
Sure. So we use the tracker a lot to help athletes improve on weaknesses. So if we know they're racing so-and-so next weekend and they need to work on breath control, or they need to work on their flip turns because that person is much better than them at a certain skill, we use the data to help them work on those things that maybe are slowing them down or not making them as competitive.
Right. Yeah, and I just think about relays myself. I think about relays and putting together like the best 4 people, and where do we put them and how, Awesome. Okay, so we're going to move on to this next, after we talked about a little bit about the different technology products, ones that involve GPS data and, tracking players using external and internal outputs, locations of players on the field. We see that a lot now when we're watching soccer. We see the overlay of the triangles that are created and the amount of distance the ball is moving, and lots of great data points for us to consider. So we were talking earlier about spreadsheets and how it's just one component, but all that data needs to be compiled and analyzed and cleaned up. And I know that's a big part of data analytics, particularly in sports. And in our data science classes, we do actually work on a little bit of SQL, right? SQL and but when you're moving forward beyond, maybe small data sets, and you're moving beyond databases that are holding just a little bit of data, I do know, Brett, that you need more tools than just a little bit of SQL, right?
Yeah, and just to clarify, these are the tools that I'm personally using, that also I think is representative of our particular organization in Columbus and what we're doing on the kind of the analytics data science side. But you mentioned SQL. I think that is that's an important skill to have. It just so happens that we sort of outsource the database management side of things. So we don't necessarily, SQL is important for, I think, querying an existing database, but we actually run our queries through R or Python. But some of the technologies we use are sort of backed, kind of on the back end. They're sort of like a SQL based type of architecture that's going on in kind of the relational data.
But a lot of our students are actually learning Python with us. So, a lot of what they do there actually transfers over to some of what we're doing in data science. So this is great. And we're now going to move to a little bit of a quiz. And so everybody, I want you to take a look at the screen. And you're actually going to be choosing A, B, C, or D. Let's check out your soccer knowledge. And I'm going to go ahead and send a poll. And overall, let's take a look. Here we go. Overall in soccer, what percentage of shots become a goal? And I bet if there's some soccer players out there, you probably have an idea in mind, but the data might prove otherwise. So let's see. Brett, we've got lots of cool, the A and C are going neck and neck right now. Now we have B and C are going neck and neck. Interesting, right? So I think we have some intelligent, data soccer players out there. What do you think, Brett? If I'm telling you that right now
I'm impressed.
C is winning.
I was a little worried. I was a little worried about this. If this was too harsh. If I didn't make I could have made the options maybe just differentiate them a little more. But do we want to close the poll and reveal?
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah. So very nice. It was C. So it typically when we have to as data scientists, we understand how statistics work and the law of large numbers. And so the more shots that we get a chance to analyze and understand whether those shots resulted in goals or non-goals, we'll typically see that number will converge to something between 10 and 11% over time in soccer.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, let's try another one. Let's go to this next one. And overall in soccer, what percentage of penalty kicks result in a goal? Penalty kicks, like my dad always told us, even the professionals miss their penalty kicks. As we were growing up and he was teaching us, he always told us, don't be too hard on yourself. The biggest names in soccer often miss a penalty kick, and especially in really high stakes games.
I'll tell a quick story. When I had a chance to go to Portugal in 2004 for the European Championship, and very memorable game. It was Portugal host country against England. Very talented England squad that had David Beckham, really the biggest star on that team. And in the penalty kick shootout, he couldn't have used worse technique, and he skied it over the goal. It was sort of this. He's had some signature positive moments and some signature not so good moments.
Yeah, he sure has.
That was one of them.
Yeah, that was one of them. Here we go. These are the results.
This was a tough question, and hey, if you've got good or bad goalkeeping or talented shoot, that could throw it. But over time, again, these are one of these numbers that sort of stabilize around a particular point, and it's about 75%. So actually, B is the correct choice for this. And there's and I'll just tell you a reason why this sticks with me. I mean, I think penalty kicks are an opportunity for the use of very extensive data analysis. I mean, one of the easiest things to convince a team to do in preparation for a shootout is to try to analyze historically. If you've got likely kickers on a team, if you can develop a profile on the shooters, if you can also develop a profile on the goalkeeping to get a little edge. But with all that said, all things considered, 75% success rate for goalies.
Isn't it amazing?
It's amazing how it kind of works out to that.
It just always converges to a certain percentage. All right, last one. Last one, and then we're going to move into a case. So which of the following countries broke the record for the most passes in a single game, 779 passes, in a World Cup game set in 2018? Boy, this is a tough one, Brett. I'm not sure the kids. Let's see. Oh, wow. We got some quick responses. And most passes. And most passes is really the way this is how I grew up, learning about some of the best teams in the world had the highest completion of passing. It was all about the passing game. So right now, the kids are submitting their poll, and it is all over the place. We've got D and C fighting for first place there. That would be France and Germany, and those are two very different styles of play, if you know anything about soccer. So let's see. Let's go ahead and end it here. Looks like we've got. All right. What do you think, Brett?
Well, interesting. I just see that Jay Anderson has raised his hand, so I just maybe wanted to give him a chance if you wanted to.
Jay, do you want to take go ahead and press your microphone and ask a question? And if not, Brett, maybe you can, while we're waiting for Jay, you want to tell them what.
Well, I will say, and I'm sorry, Jay's coming
Jay,
in.
Here you go.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Jay. What's your question?
Hi. It's I'm right here. I'm busy right here, and I was it's busy lagging a little bit. I'm just seeing stuff, and then once you go to the next one, it just stays there, and a minute goes to the next one.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and work on that, and let us know if you have a question that you want to ask, and we'll definitely take your questions. But we have a couple folks working behind the scenes that will help out with that. So Brett, which country was it?
Well, I'll give a little lead up, and so the lead up is that countries, soccer, and I think you alluded to this, Joanne, is that you can have all these different styles in soccer. There's some countries that play more possession-oriented style of soccer, some that like to counterattack, so they're willing to defend and choose their moments. France in 2018 was actually a team that liked, even though they won that World Cup, they didn't really do that through passing. They did it a lot more through defending and trying to counterattack. And Germany and Spain, the two prior World Cup winners, they won their respective World Cups because they were just these dominant teams and the ability to control the ball and pose their style of play. But teams really were prepared, and I think that you had, and just tying this into data, I think there were a lot of federations that were getting pretty sharp on scouting these teams.
Yeah, and it was that combination of players.
Yeah,
really, and so
Spain
team.
Spain. So the answer to now to get to the point, we saw both Germany and Spain have rather early exits from 2018. Right. Germany did not make it out of the out
they
of their
stayed
group.
Down. Yeah, they didn't.
And they did pass a lot of their games, but it was actually Spain against Russia that ended up losing the game in a shootout. But in taking that game through the extra time, they completed the most passes in any other World Cup and didn't win. So it just goes to show you that there's no absolutes.
Right, no absolutes.
When it comes to passing in soccer. Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to this, what we've been waiting for, this fun little moment that you had, right? So in the Major League Soccer, it looks like, Brett, you took a little ride with these fellows. Let's see what they have to say about data.
Only thing was missing was the karaoke and carpool karaoke.
Yeah, and carpool karaoke. Yeah. All right, let's take a look.
Progress isn't just about embracing change. It's about leading it. Together with Audi, we're excited to bring you some of the influencers driving progress in the game of soccer.
So how has information derived from data and technology helped your performances over the years?
It's helped me a lot. I mean, look, I'm a guy that used to get injured a ton, and to fix it, we had to start tracking my load. When you're at the risk of injury, meaning your body's probably tired and it's not a good day for you to go out and do certain things. So in little ways like that, I think it's a big help for a lot of guys.
And how have your teams used data and technology to evaluate performances?
I would imagine scouting has improved with it, right? You're able to have a bigger database of players and kind of you're able to see what you like.
Look at the quality of the league right now, and it speaks for itself that they're definitely using the tools at their disposal to
sign better players.
All right, hold on. We got a call.
Okay.
Hello?
Hey, this is Brett Meyer's calling.
Hey, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Not bad. Just cruising around Toronto with Josie, who you know well.
No kidding. I'm in Toronto, too.
Are you?
Yeah.
Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm over by the Toronto practice field.
You want to come on a ride with us?
Oh, I'd love to.
All right. We'll see you in a few.
Brett Myers is a professional soccer analytics consultant charting new ways to analyze and improve the best players in Major League Soccer.
Mr. Brett Myers, how are you, man?
Good. How you guys doing?
Everything well?
Yeah, doing great.
So, Brett, we're talking a little bit about front office using, the advances of data and analytics. You're obviously an expert yourself. What is the responsibility for someone like yourself to not only provide consultation, but also dumb it down for people to truly understand and make use of it?
With soccer, it's challenging because of how complex the game is, but I think that's what made it intriguing. I want to make sure that I'm doing the right kind of analysis and producing good information that's going to be helpful. Trying to use this information to make everyone's job easier, better, and putting people in the best position for success.
What makes soccer so different in terms of its analytics than say other sports?
Well, if you start with baseball, everything is just sort of chopped up in these discrete events. You've got batter, pitcher, there's starts, stops. soccer, it's continuous and it's flowing. We're actually trying to explain, there could be 2,000 events that happen on the ball in a particular game, and trying to sort of understand how each action contributes to winning in that team, and not only just the actions on the ball, but the movement that goes on around the ball. It's not just about the individuals, but it's about how individuals connect within a team framework.
There's a lot of people that play fantasy sports that think because they play fantasy sports or they've won their league that they would know how to build a team or build a roster. I mean, clearly it has to be much more complex than that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's one thing when you're managing a fantasy team and all you care about is your team and how many points each individual is accumulating. Building a real team, not only are you thinking about just kind of pure performance stats in the field, but you're also thinking about personalities and building a team.
Yeah, so Brett, we mentioned early on in our agree or disagree statement, about this idea that using data in sports dehumanizes players, and you were pleasantly surprised that that's not necessarily the prevailing opinion out there in our audience. Well, how would you describe, you just mentioned a little bit about, really creating data that is most helpful, most useful. Can you pinpoint maybe just one example in your consulting with MLS, maybe with Josie, where that came into play?
Yeah, actually, I think that's actually a great segue question into the first use case, which is the performance metric. You have, in the video, you heard me say 2,000 events. I can't, if I'm providing, coaches, general managers, other staff people, if I'm trying to give them these database reports, I can't just throw in front of them hundreds and thousands of stats. I need to narrow it down. So one idea I had, inspired by baseball with the wins above replacement metric, was to come up with one single stat that could reflect the overall player's contribution to winning in a particular game that could be summed up for an entire season. So just to protect the sensitivity of that data, I can't really get into what we called it and exactly what stats were being used, but in terms of simplifying and making it easier for the staff to interpret kind of what was going on from a data standpoint, just having a single number was helpful. And look, it's not, what we have to understand with a single number is it's not the end all be all. That performance metric isn't going to reflect personality. It's going to fall short on all the elements that are going to be important for for an individual to fit within a team framework. But it's something that can be complementary to the ways to all the ways in which like a coach or a general manager is going to to judge, evaluate a player, and then make decisions accordingly.
Right. So it's using data to really analyze and come up with that perfect combination of, your player squad. And, Lauren and I was just, mentioning those 2,000, the 2,000, we call, and when we teach our data science class, we call those data points, right? And, when we're talking about millions of rows of data, we actually teach our students to use BigQuery, which is a Google product, to really analyze billions or millions of rows, and really it could be billions of rows of data in just seconds. And the kids actually do that with us. Kids as early as 9 years old are working in BigQuery. So it's and
that's
really
fantastic.
Cool that
I just want to say that is really important. That is going to really be helpful. All right, to really kind of get to the next level with what we can do with data. It's going to depend on young people like you in the audience that are learning these skills early on, because I did not grow up, when I went through all my education, I did not learn, however many, it was 20 years of school practically, and I never learned, BigQuery, because there wasn't the need for it. I don't think that technology was even developed. And so, I have to kind of, self-teach myself. But the fact that students now at a very young age can get that in an education environment, it's going to be so important.
It's so fun. Lauren has done a great job at creating really fun activities and tutorials for the kids to explore public data sets in BigQuery and actually run, create their own SQL statements and run queries. It's been really awesome. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and give them a little bit of context on something like a visual like this and how it's generated using some of the data collection and analysis.
Sure, yeah, and I'll just give you kind of some context around this. And so I had a request from one of the staff people at Columbus. This staff member used to work for FIFA, that's the overall governing body behind all of soccer in the world. And this was a diagram that came out of the World Cup. So this tracking technology that measures all the player movements, that was used, and the data was used to generate this visual. So when we talk about millions of rows of data, you get from millions of rows of raw data for one single game to eventually this particular diagram, which you could see the outline of a soccer field. And so the little circles are representative of players. And so if you take the left field so Joanna, you can go down to the goalkeeper. All right, you see the little goalkeeper.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you have to click on it. But going back to that, you have the goalkeeper at the bottom of the screen, and then you work your way to so you have the goalkeeper, but then you see that kind of that off-colored what would be like the center back position. Yep. So that is considered the deepest lying defender. Right, and then you've got the other players, and then you've got kind of like that center forward. That's the highest player in the field. So, right. So actually there's a measure there. So if you go from that deepest lying defender to the center forward, you have 28 meters. And this is in terms of the average positioning of those players in the course of the game. And then you can look at width. So you take like the leftmost player, which is going to be some kind of left wing or midfield type player, rightmost player. So you get these measures of team depth, team length, team width, and then you got this depth figure, which is a measure from, you see that 40 meters, which is the touch line to the end line to the last defender. So this was something that was tracked for all teams. It was interesting that when you looked at the more successful teams out of the World Cup, that there was kind of a sweet spot. You didn't want to be too wide. You didn't want to be, so you wanted to have kind of balance in these dimensions. So this is something that I was asked to start tracking for our team. So it required me to have to go through millions of data points that we have access to in the form of tracking data. And so I couldn't share my actual diagrams just because of this confidential, but pretty much it would, for a particular game, it would kind of replicate what was being showed there. My tools were actually did it all in R. I had to go from JSON raw data, keep that structured. So I wrote all this code to convert JSON into like a data frame that was workable. And then I used different R packages to then generate a visual of the field with like the player dots and the different annotations.
Well, gosh, that is awesome, Brett. I love how you just walk the kids through, your process using the technical skills and the coding skills, but also the fact that you just shared with us, the sweet spot in a World Cup in which, teams were winning. And so, this is just an amazing piece of information. Even if we're all I'm sure there's folks in our audience who are players or just love the game and would love to analyze the game maybe as their career. But to be able to inform a coaching and a managerial staff of, like you said, kind of if we can find trends of really great teams with high winning percentages or, high statistics in certain areas and then replicate it, it's just an amazing skill set to have. So I want to thank you for sharing that with us. Absolutely. And so now we're going to move into Q&A. You're welcome to, I know that Lauren has been responding to lots of great questions in our Q&A in our chat, but also if there are folks out there who would like to ask any questions to Brett or to Lauren, you can go ahead and raise your hand and we will ask you to go ahead and press your microphone.
So I think the last World Cup, I don't think anybody really expected Croatia to get as far as they could. Do you think they used data analytics to fuel their run?
I don't, so to be honest, when it comes to Croatia, I don't have any firsthand knowledge or any insight if they did. I like to think they did, but I think that the only thing I'll say is just that I think this World Cup, if you look at France and Croatia and what they could do well, I think they were teams that were very good defending and in transition. I think this was a World Cup where that particular style seemed to be working out a bit better than some of the more possession-oriented styles. And they've got some talented players that play on some big clubs on that team.
Yeah,
good
they
question,
sure do.
though.
Yeah, that was a good question, Adisa. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Lauren has a question from one of the folks in the chat for you, Brett.
Oh, yes. So what device do you use for tracking your soccer players?
What device for in terms of that tracking data I was referencing
Yes, they want to know, do you have like a tracker like I have, or how do you track them?
Sure. So in the actual games, this is sort of done through multiple cameras that are installed in the stadiums, and kind of through kind of like an AI machine learning type technology. Basically the players get recognized, they're sort of the numbers, and they can kind of get processed into the information on that player, and then basically those movements of that player are tracked, and it's 25 frames a second.
Wow.
So imagine you have, if you just go for 1 through 25 on your spreadsheet, that would just be, so 1 through 25 gets you to 1 second. So every row represents 0.04 of a second, and going across the columns, you have XY coordinates for every player that's playing. So it's a very massive data set. And so that's the technology behind it.
Wow, and that's probably just per player. So, all right. Well, we're actually all out of time. We really appreciate you joining us today with these questions, and I wanted to just bring this to your bring this for your closing.
Where do you see the league in 5 years, 10 years down the road?
The technology is going to get better. The data is going to get better. There'll be more of a culture of using it and having it be part of the whole plan in the club.
How much of the future of your career is hinging on Brett back here to get enough numbers to let you play until you're 50?
I don't know about 50, but I know that when you open your mind to new ideas as time, goes on, I think it can only help you. Something like what he provides is something that I hope will cut off more days and stop bigger injuries from happening.
Well, Brett,
all right,
I think we've reached
we want to send
back
many
to your destination.
thanks to Brett, to Lauren, and all our participants, especially Brett and Lauren. Thank you for opening up our eyes and our ears to new ideas, like Josie says, about data in sports. And we really appreciate it. And hey, everybody, you guys have a great rest of your day. You can always follow up with us at Create and Learn. And there will be a recording of this session in case you missed some of it or you'd like to share it with some friends. And it was wonderful to meet you all. I'm going to go ahead and end our session. Say bye, Brett. Say bye, Lauren.
Bye. It was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.